All right, and Margaret is joining us. We're just getting it.
Good morning,
ready.
Zoe.
Good morning. We're just getting it all ready. It looks like it's going to work today, and that's good. All right, and I'm going to bring up the live.
So good morning, Zoe.
Good morning. We're just getting it all. There we go. Okay. All right, here we are. I'm bringing up, excuse me, I'm bringing up both the Facebook and the Zoom, and so I can see what anyone writes. It looks like technology is a little bit friendlier today, which is good. So good morning, everyone. You're welcome to be on either the Zoom or the Facebook, and please say hi as you're hopping on, and then especially if you're in Facebook, because I can't always tell who's there. And as always, you can ask me any questions at any point, and I'll take a little break and look at them. So I see Margaret and Sahar and Janet and Chitra and Lisa are all joining us. And I know John and Jen and Andrea are in the Zoom land. So good morning. If it is morning where you are, some people are joining from Australia. It's kind of a gray day in the Boston area, which always gets me a little allergic in the fall. So sorry if I'm coughing. And welcome to day 3. This is basically the middle of the 5 days. And I hope that you are feeling excited and invigorated about having a meditation practice and getting a sense of what it means to be working on a practice as well. And today is a little bit of a simpler topic in that we are going to be talking about where. In day 1, we looked at why. Why do you want a meditation practice? Why are you here? And today we're going to be looking at, well, where do you sit? As we start to look at the kind of practical ways to integrate a practice. The timing, which we talked about yesterday in our discussion of when, and the situation of where are probably the most kind of important pieces from a practical standpoint. And they're pieces that you can use to really help with your practice as well. I mentioned yesterday that the timing is also basically like a cue, and the most significant cues are usually visual. So having a little bit of an environment will really help with that. Now, of course, one of the awesomest things about meditation is that you don't need anything, right? All you need is your intention to take a pause, to sit, to be with yourself, and your attention, your awareness. And you don't actually need any gear or any props or anything special. But a lot of people have some things because it can help with that cue and the reminder and the habit. And it can help with meaning, linking to that first question of why you're here and why you want to have a practice. So let me know if you have a spot, if you've meditated before and you have a spot that you go to, or if you've already been through this process of kind of finding a spot that works for you. And again, just like your timing is likely to shift, your spots are likely to shift too. So yeah, if you're on the Facebook or on the Zoom, you can let me know in the comments what that might look like for you. I'm just curious if you have a spot where you've tried, because it can be a little bit of an interesting process as well. So I'll just talk a little bit about that. It's a little bit less intense content today, so we'll have more time for some meditation. So for example, you might want to pick a spot that is quiet and supports focus. Where you won't be bothered too much, right? And yet you have to balance that out with finding a spot that's not too out of the way, that you actually, might be on your usual travels throughout the day, that you actually see and are reminded of practicing and maybe want to go there, right? Don't feel like you have to make an extra trip. I see some comments coming in now that Sahar likes to meditate next to her cat in the living room, which is lovely. I wonder if your cat's always in the same place. And Star mentions that she likes to do outside But yes, it is getting chilly, at least in this hemisphere of the earth. So, in fact, meditating outside sounds wonderful. In the research, I've polled people and asked them about their ideal practice. Many people have this ideal, the image that they want to sit outside and be in nature and be surrounded in this beautiful environment. And I just want to say, I also adore nature and love to be surrounded by it too and connect with it, but it's often very distracting. So even sitting by a window can be a little bit distracting. Today in our practice, we're actually going to use that a little bit more to our advantage. But sometimes sitting in a quieter, less busy, quiet indoor, I kind of have a corner near a window with some light, can be a really helpful spot. And picking a spot also helps to make it feel special and to build a little bit of space and kind of ritual around it. Even if you're traveling, which I know many people are not traveling right now, but even when you're in a new environment and you want to keep up your practice, a helpful thing when you're arriving is to mentally kind of pick a spot that might be a good place for meditating. And knowing that you have the spot, and some people go by the idea of like one space, one use, really kind of making it specific to how you're going to use it, even if it's, a corner or some aspect, some little object that kind of links into the one use, the one sitting meditation sort of behavioral piece, then it just really helps to enforce it as a habit. So let's see, there's, as I mentioned yesterday, and there's a little bit of a spectrum. This is another thing where you can be bare bones about anything you need to have or how you like to sit, or you can, you can really kit it out and have like the full experience. Of course, having lots of props and cushions and bells and things does not make you a meditator, right? It's actually the practice. So be careful not to have the, what is that syndrome called? The, shiny gold syndrome, where you're distracted by all the exterior manifestations of things. And ultimately, the most important part of this discussion is you want to do whatever makes you show up and makes you want to come back tomorrow. So the purpose is really to enforce the habit, to make a welcoming environment as well. And there is this opportunity to find some joy and more meaning in the creation of an environment for you to sit. So you can kind of look into that why you're here, what you're seeking. The things that came up were the grounded, the calm, the disentangling, non-reacting, just using some of your words from the homework. And you can kind of try to bring that vision to life with some detail and care and love. This is, again, the opportunity that's there. So let me know, even with Sahar and Star, who mentioned the living room and outside, have you used any objects? Do you have a cushion? Have you kind of attempted to do that, to create an environment ever before? And I'll come back and check the comments in a little while. And so having this location, this special environment helps a lot as a cue in getting your practice set up, right? And really having any kind of gear for meditation, I think it serves any of the three functions. One is providing a cue and is helping you to establish the habit. And the second one is providing more meaning and aligning with your motivations that we talked about on day one. And the third thing, of course, is making your practice easier to keep up, making you more comfortable in your body, or making it easier to manage the timing or some of the practicalities, which are also important, right? If you do use objects then, or get any gear, you want them to be speaking to at least one of those things. So I'm looking at some of the comments, and Sahar, who likes to meditate next to her cat, says she's always done it in a very simple manner with no objects. And that is totally fine, that bare bones approach. If you think of the more, a lot of what we practice is sort of like secular meditation, not necessarily connected to any religion, more about the mindfulness. But if you think about those Buddhist roots, the monks are living out there with nothing, right? They're not a very object heavy kind of society. And yet they also have these temples and these beautiful spaces and these gardens. So even there's kind of like a balance between that. And the nice thing is you get to decide, once again, what works for you, what resonates with you. So going through a little bit on why you might want the objects, those 3 reasons that I mentioned. The first thing are having the visual cue to, for example, this is my meditation corner, which I'll give you a tiny little tour of. I have actually a little altar down here with a singing bowl and a couple of objects on it. And my plants around me. And that altar, that table is actually something in Japan with my papermaking teacher, an old antique that we refinished together. So it has a lot of meaning for me. But this corner is actually in my bedroom. So I see it first thing when I wake up and when I go to bed, which is often when I like to meditate. And I noticed in the homework that a lot of people also listed those times. And they can be really easy ways to get your timing and your routine established, doing that in the morning and in the evening. Maybe you don't want to have a meditation space in your bedroom. Some people are really like to keep their bedroom just for sleeping, especially if you have any issues with sleep. But still, having it somewhere that you're going to walk by quite a bit, you start to develop a different relationship. Sometimes if you have a cushion or an object, that thing kind of calls out to you. It's like, hello, don't forget about meditating. And seeing a comment here on the Facebook Live from Janet about sitting with a firm pillow behind her back this morning for the first time, and also using some music. And that's a good point that I hadn't considered, but music does really create an environment too. And in the research I've done, a lot of people use and like to use music and find it really helpful too. And yes, Margaret's talking about a cushion. We will get into cushion or chair. Supporting the body, I think, of anything is probably the most important. So the cue, I mentioned yesterday that book that I like, Atomic Habits by James Clear. And a cue is one of the first of the 4 steps in creating a good habit that you want to keep. So the cue is kind of this reminder, right? This thing that we create an association with the habit. And visual cues are the most effective. And then that goes to the second step, which is craving, this kind of urge to engage with it. And the third step is response, which is basically performing the behavior, doing the habit, sitting in meditation. And the fourth step of that is reward. So James Clear defines cues as tiny bits of information that predict a reward. And the reward, or the outcome of the meditation, kind of links back into that question of why. Why are you here? What is it that you're seeking? So that's why I start with that, because that kind of comes up again and again. And sometimes that's a very external objective. And sometimes it's a very internal evolution of your person and your identity. And it can be both, right? And there can be a dialogue between those things. And I see that Michelle has also written that she likes to burn sage. And that is both a visual cue and a sensory, a smell cue as well, right? So actually, engaging all the senses, the smell, the listening, the visual, and having an action you perform or a ritual can be really helpful as well. Not necessary, you can still go bare bones, just bring your attention and your intention. But these are options for you to help support the actual practice. So the second thing that might be helpful is having an altar or having an object that speaks to you and your meaning. So I just showed you before my little altar over here and the objects I have on it. And I have all kinds of things, and these things actually change. I have a rock with some painting that I painted with my son. I have a feather. I have a candle, which I rarely light because I usually close my eyes and then I feel like I'm wasting the candle. I have things I don't remember where they came from, to be honest. Mostly rocks, stones, shells, bits of nature. And I have had some dim lighting, a little like salt lamp in here before, and the dim lighting is sort of soothing and calming. I can turn off the overhead light when I'm doing an evening meditation, which is also so much better for your circadian rhythms and getting to sleep, winding down. So you would want, if you want to try this approach, then you want to maybe choose things that bring you something that resonates with while you're here, with your motivations and the benefits you're seeking. It might be something that you just love, that brings you joy. It might be something that makes you feel safe, that makes you kind of ground and trust yourself and the universe. Or something that gives you inspiration. These are just sort of reminders of why you're here. And they become visual cues, especially if you're starting to link them to that habit. Oh yeah, I even have to bring out, Andrea will know this, my thumbs up Buddha, which is actually from a lovely yoga retreat. He's over here. And some of the other options, right? Candles, the singing bowls and bells. I do really use that quite a lot. And when I've done meditation classes outside or in other locations, over the summer, I was teaching by phone on a conference call to the elderly patients I've worked with in the past. And I would do some meditation wherever I happened to be, Walden Pond or something. The only thing I actually brought with me was my singing bowl. And then lastly, of course, I mentioned you might want to have any objects or gear that help to make you more comfortable and to make your practice easier to keep up. The cushion, or where you're sitting and how you're supporting body, is I really think the most important of all these things. So I do sit on a cushion on the ground. There are lots of options, and I have tried out a couple of them. I'll show you. I have a cotton zafu, a cotton cushion. I think I got it on Amazon, and it was like $20. And so nice to elevate my hips above my knees, right? And that's kind of the main thing you're looking for when you're dealing with a cushion. I also have a cushion. I pulled it out of my closet, so it's a little dusty, but it's a different shape, and it's made with buckwheat. So it has a different kind of firmness and support. And when I've done that fairly bare bones meditation outside or on the beach or something, then I usually bring a yoga block to sit on. Just kind of, open my knees and pop my sacrum or my tailbone up on that area. So what else about cushions? They also have little stools, little wooden stools that often the legs of the stools might fold in, and then the top where you would sit, the seat part, is often tilted, right? So having your hips above your knees, having a little tilt to your spine. And there's also, I have one of these in my closet too. There's zabuton, which are like the big square cushions if you need a little extra support for your knees and ankles. Or you can always try meditating on a rug or a yoga mat or a slightly softer surface. And you don't have to sit on the ground to do this either. Totally fine to sit in a chair. Chairs, ideally, you want to again have support under your pelvis, so a slight forward anterior tilt to your pelvis, your hips above your knees, a way that you ideally can keep your spine straight without necessarily, in the couch or something, slouching back. And yeah, and then, you can sit, you can lie down, and even with lying down, you might want some props if you need a blanket, for example, or something under your knees to support your low back. Those are all fine. Standing and walking meditation, again, require no objects and no props. So a little moment, a little bit of talking about posture, and then we're going to move into a meditation. And again, if you have any questions or anything, I'll look at that before we go into the meditation. So meditation is not meant to be uncomfortable. It's not a test of your endurance. So it's again and again this opportunity to work with wherever you're at and whatever is available to you. And that's going to change from time to time. Even in a fully functional, healthy person, we do get sick. Things happen in our external environment where you might need to be in different positions or try meditating in different ways. So I find it most helpful to sit upright, if I mention, but you don't have to, and you do what's available to you. And in that way, you're keeping your body upright. Your spine is fairly straight, but you can allow for some of the natural curves too. And then trying to bring your shoulders down. Sometimes it helps to think of your shoulder blades dropping down towards the floor, right? And a little tilt of the chin. So instead of doing this, you bring your head is sitting on your spine, supported, right? There's no weight, no extra burden there. And then I have one trick. Actually, I'll mention the trick at the end. The other thing is what you do with your hands. And people don't often experiment with this, but this course is all about personalizing it. This retreat, rather, is all about making it what works for you. So you might sit with your hands on your thighs or your legs with the palms open, or you might try turning them over. And from my background with like body work and shiatsu and energetics, there's this opening to the sort of external circuits and energies of the world, or there's kind of turning your hands over, keeping the energy within you, that internal circuit of energy, and sometimes kind of conserving your energy that way as well. Some people will meditate with their hands on their laps, and people get detailed about that in terms of like when you get into like Zen and other kinds of traditions where like the left hand is the yin, the female, and the right hand is the yang. And so men and women might sit with different hand positions. You do what you want, but I'm just letting you know that how you are with your hands can actually make slight differences, or you might notice if you experiment with that. And some people, of course, might do more like from yoga, a kind of a mudra, like this or this, which I think can help just bring some alertness into the body, especially if sleepiness is an issue for you. All right, and then my trick, which actually I mentioned in my live last week, is I call it the Jello trick. And the Jello trick is that if you're having trouble with your body centering and balancing and finding alignment, you can imagine that you are sitting in a tub, maybe lying in a tub of Jello. And you have, especially in today's world where we are looking on our phones or on our computers and all of our bodies kind of going in this forward momentum, right? And this is the opportunity to take in your whole body and your whole being, right? And become aware of your side bodies, the back of your body, your low back, the back of your head. So it can help to imagine that you're in this tub of Jello and you can let go and relax, and something is there to support you. And it's there on all sides of you. and all the nooks and crannies, up in your armpit, underneath your thigh bones, right? And that can be a really helpful way to just drop in and find balance. So we're going to go ahead and shift into meditation now. If you have any questions, I'll just check over here. No questions right now, but you're welcome to ask any questions and I'll look again. And I know I shared the Jello trick last week and a few people have already told me how much it's been helpful for them. So that's good. I came up with that one on my own. It's a strange little trick, but it really works for me. And we're actually going to engage our senses today and do a meditation with our eyes open. So if you are watching this near a window, looking out a window might be a nice way to do this. Or if you have any plants or any of these little objects around, and you might want to see what it's like to look at something, look at an object. I've mentioned how we use anchors in meditation, and these are anchors for our attention and our awareness. Another term for the same thing is also an object of awareness. And in this case, we're going to use literal objects, and we're going to use our seeing and the act of seeing as an anchor in this meditation. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the body and the posture as we settle in. And a nice thing about practicing this way is it's very close to more of an integration of everyday mindfulness, right? We normally think we're meditating only with our eyes closed, but doing it occasionally with your eyes open, or often if you prefer, helps to make it more seamless between our busy everyday lives. And this is just the mindfulness, the awareness, that capacity. So go ahead and find a spot. If you need to move around, reconfigure a little bit, go ahead. I'm seeing one question as we settle in here, which is Chitra asking if your back is supported when sitting on the cushion. My back is not supported. My sacrum or my tailbone is sitting on the cushion, just kind of on the edge of the cushion. You don't actually want to sit in the middle. You just want to sit on the edge to get that slight tilt for your pelvis. So find an upright position if you can. If you want to be by a window, I'm going to turn ever so slightly so I can see this plant and use that as my object of awareness. And just as before, we'll settle in for a short meditation and then I'll ring the bell. And finding, and also you can have nothing. You don't need anything special. You can look at the wall or the floor. It can be very helpful to have this sort of 45-degree angle downward for your soft gaze, right? And we're not going to be like, peeling our eyes open and looking really intensely. It's still a soft gaze. So coming into a posture now, shifting your body however you need to. We'll take a moment and ground into the body. Maybe you might want to take a moment to play with your hands as they rest on your lap. Perhaps you're sitting with the palms up, or with the palms down, or the hands together. And take a moment and just notice what feels comfortable and what resonates with you. And as we take our seats, as you take your seat, notice the sensations of sitting. Feel the pressure and the heaviness. Feel the weight of your pelvis. Feel the lower half of your body settling in. Just bringing your awareness into those touch points, leaving your gaze soft, but directing your attention inwards to become aware of your feet, of the contact with the ground beneath you. And the most common touch points it's easy to hold in the mind are the feet, the pelvis or your tailbone, and the hands. So just spend a little bit of time, even with your eyes open, holding those parts in your mind, feeling from within. Noticing any sensations that arise, any tingling or warmth, any pressure. And maybe you notice how often the sensations are changing, from tension to loosening to buzzing. As we come to stillness, notice all the movement that is going on within us. Letting yourself ground, sinking into the earth. Bring your attention back into your pelvis, the base of your spine. And like a tree rising from the earth, feel your spine effortlessly reaching up. And maybe we can recruit the breath to help us come into balance. Feel each inhale stretching up your spine. Letting your shoulder blades melt down your back. As the shoulders sink towards the floor, feel how the chest opens and lightens. Sense of uplift and possibility. If you've been going through a stressful time, experiencing any loss or grief, the chest tends to get really closed in. Once we've established a connection to the earth, a support for our center, allow this area to open as much as it wants to. Not forcing it to open, but knowing that you're there for yourself and your body. And as this whole part of your upper thoracic spine, your chest, your shoulders, start to come into more balance, notice the position of your head. You might try ever so slightly adjusting the angle of your chin. A very slight tuck so that your gaze starts to fall a little downward, still soft. Feel everything starting to come into balance, finding the center. When the mind wanders, bringing your attention back to the ground beneath you, the touch points of your hands, your pelvis, and your feet. Anchoring into the body, feeling your back body. Maybe you feel the breath through your low back. And if you have trouble connecting to any part of your body, then you imagine the jello. No need to exert any effort to sit. You feel the support of the ground, the jello in our minds supporting us, allowing you to soften, to drop down just a little more, always to whatever level is comfortable and available for you. Now bringing your attention to your act of seeing. Take in, even generally, loosely, take in the light. Begin to notice the texture of whatever you're looking at, the color, the shape, the qualities. Just spend a moment, it needn't be long, really looking with your full attention and awareness. When the mind wanders, returning to the body, to the weight of sitting, to the support of the jello, to the movement of breath. Each distraction is an opportunity to return, rather than judging the monkey mind. Maybe we can even shift our minds to appreciate the opportunity to return the attention. And whether you're looking out the window at things that are moving, or looking at a stone that remains stationary, can you keep your attention just there, just here, just this? Keep your attention on seeing, and even begin to see in a way where you're sort of relaxing back into it rather than exerting force and attention. You're allowing the images to be received in your mind. You're allowing your attention to take everything in. And you're also training the mind to include this awareness of your body and your inner landscape as you engage in seeing. Just spending a minute more quietly doing this practice. And then when you're ready, no need to open your eyes, but maybe shift out of the posture you've taken for the meditation. Moving however you need to move. And can you take this awareness of your body and of being present throughout your day now that you've gotten a sense of what it's like to sit and meditate with your eyes open, that could be life. That could be the rest of the day, that you could go around connecting with, having this energy, having this awareness. And the homework is there, and I'll post a thread on it in the Facebook group. Still reading and reacting to any homework you want to do for the first day and the second day. And tomorrow we'll continue with looking at how long and how you manage the timing, and going to give you a couple of ideas for how to progress into a meditation. And we'll do the first of the 3 giveaways that I have tomorrow as well. So definitely good to tune in for that. Yeah, I think that's about it. The homework for today is really thinking about where you fall on that spectrum of bare bones or full kit in terms of objects that might be helpful for you, and thinking about the environment you want to create, and maybe a couple of ideas. I've been loving everyone's implementation intention, where it's like, I will meditate in the living room after my son goes to sleep or something. That wasn't quite one of them, but there were a bunch of them. I'm loving how specific they are. So in the same way, I encourage you to get specific about it, because it just helps you to really see it, and also it makes it really actionable. It's less thinking. A lot of this is like setting yourself up so you don't have to think about each little thing. And we all know during pandemic, when like every decision has to be thought out so much, it's nice to have that, right? There's that sense of ease, and that kind of grows the more that you practice, the more that grows. So thanks everyone for showing up, and glad we didn't have any tech issues. I seem to not be able to keep it totally to 30 minutes, but I'll keep trying. And I'm so glad that you were here, and hope you have a really lovely day.